Hello and welcome to another episode of Learning to Live in the Present Moment. My name is Ted Robinson and I'm your host today. Today we're going to be talking about the ego and how it relates to being in the present moment versus not being in the present moment. Because I believe that that's the essence or one of the primary things that we need to understand before we can actually become present. Let me explain that for a moment. First off, the ego is not easy to define. It's that part of you that in normal parlance we'd say, oh, he's got a lot of ego. She has a lot of ego. He's a maniac, an egotist, or she's an egotist. But that's not all that the ego is. The ego is basically your conscious mind. It's the part of you that does your thinking, your conscious thinking. So if somebody presents a problem to you, you're going to, let me think about this. And you think it all through and you weigh all the pluses and minuses and you come up with a conclusion. But there's another part of us. It's called the subconscious mind. It's far more creative. It's really imaginative. And it's far more powerful than the conscious mind. Except for one thing. The ego/conscious mind thinks it's the smartest part. And so therein lies the rub many times. Because the subconscious mind is really pretty innocent. It's like a 3-year-old emotionally, and it wants what it wants, and it doesn't want what it doesn't want, and it'll do whatever it has to do to achieve those ends. But the conscious mind, it's the part that'll negotiate. It'll do all kinds of little things to accomplish what it wants, and not necessarily always of the upright nature. Now, that doesn't mean that the ego is a bad thing. It just means it's something to watch carefully. What I mean by watch carefully is be mindful of it. Watch it regularly because it's often what gets us into trouble. It's what takes offense when somebody cuts you off on the road. I'll get you. It's what feels badly when you get fired. Oh, I can't believe this is happening to me. Why me? It plays the victim rather well. It's the part that judges everybody, including yourself. It's the part that thinks about the past and about the future. So all of those times when you're thinking about the past, or if you're worrying about the future, or if you're in judgment of somebody or something, you're in your ego mind. You're utilizing and engaging with your ego mind. Now, there are many groups and religions that seem to want to say, destroy the ego, crush the ego, quiet the ego, get it out of the way. It's the only thing that's getting you into trouble. And I don't agree with that at all. The ego is not necessarily a good or bad thing. It just is what it is, and it does what it does. And let me remind you of something right up front. We need the ego every day of our lives. Why? Well, to make judgments. We need judgments in life. How would you know what to wear every day? How would you know what you need to do? How would you prioritize your life? How would you make your lists of things to do if you do that? How would you even make a grocery list if you didn't judge that you needed this and didn't need that? So the ego is very valuable to us. It's important. It's integral to our lives in common day living. However, where the problem arises with the ego is we tend to get lost in judgment many times. And now when we start to judge something, we start to judge everything and everybody. And before long, we become very bigoted, prejudiced, opinionated. These are all things of the ego. Right or wrong, I'm not here to say. But that's when you can get yourself locked into situations that you'd rather not be in later on. The other thing the ego does, as I mentioned earlier, is it can drag you into the past. It can keep you in sadness or bereavement. I've heard people say, if I ever lost a child, my life would be over. Well, that's not true, except that your subconscious mind is thinking about it all the time when you say that kind of thing, and it might just get that message and carry it out for you if you lost a child. Better yet, these are things that are judgments that we then make with our mind. All of these things are related. Now, regret, anger, resentment, all these things, vindictiveness, all these things are from the past. When you find yourself in those thought processes, you're in the ego mind. Sounds like a lot of the time, right? Or if you're in worry, stress, anxiety, that's all about the future. So if you're in either one of those things, you're in your ego. If you're judging, organizing, evaluating, all the ego. So it sounds like we spend a lot of our time in the ego mind, doesn't it? And learning to live in the present moment requires but one thing: quieting the ego mind. No more thoughts from the ego mind. None. Zero. Empty up here. Quiet. Still. See the problem? So when we talk about learning to live in the present moment, one of the primary things we're talking about is learning to be mindful of the ego. Now, again, there's nothing wrong with thinking about the past or the future or judging. You need to organize and coordinate and schedule and plan. These are all things of the ego, and there's nothing wrong with any of that. However, you know and I know people that are locked into that. They can't do anything without a schedule, a plan, a coordinated list, or any number of things. There's no spontaneity in that situation then, is there? You can't live in the present moment if you're just doing that. So you can't live if you're stuck in the past all the time, regretting, oh, if only I'd done this. Why did that happen to me in the past? I can't believe it. Those are all ways you can get lost in the ego. Or you could, oh, I can't believe I've got this thing to do, and I don't know if I can get it done, and I've got to this, and I've got to that, and I can't, and you're lost in the ego again. So those are the ways in which we can get, just some of the ways in which we can get lost in the ego. And that's how we lose the present moment. But I'm here to explain to you how you can learn to live in the present moment. And I'll be back in a moment to explain more about that will make it clearer for you how you can use the ego and then eclipse it and come into the present moment and be here too. Be right back. Don't go away. Welcome back. So now that you know what the ego is all about and how we can get lost in it, I want you to realize that the whole show is about learning to live in the present moment. And that's not an entirely accurate statement. It's a bit of a misnomer, because I don't believe you can really live in the present moment all the time and function in society. Because if you were always in the present moment, you wouldn't be able to focus on anything or plan anything or schedule anything, and you'd probably get lost a lot. So the idea of learning to live in the present moment is picking your spots, picking your times when it's most appropriate to be present. That may be at home, it may be out in your backyard or at the beach or up next to a stream. It could be fishing, it could be doing anything you want. But the idea is to know when to be present and to be in control of all those things. And by the way, even being in control is your ego. So there's nothing wrong with the ego. I want to get that clear right up front. But it tends to take you over at times. And that's the problem. That's the area that people get into trouble with eventually. So I'd like to help you recognize when your ego is overtaking you. And many of the examples I've already given hopefully will do that for you, because when you're lost in your mind, when you're lost in planning, lost in scheduling, lost in preparing, as opposed to doing what you're preparing for, then the ego has gotten you captured in it, and you're not really living your life. You're not living in the present moment. So that's the distinction to be made here. And the answer is quite simple. It's called mindfulness. You may have been hearing about mindfulness lately. Mindfulness is simply paying attention. Oh, look at that. You see what I did there? You see how that happened then? That's mindfulness. And it's just another part of your mind that's constantly always watching. I call it the watcher. And I put my hand up here purposely because I cannot see my hand no matter how hard I try. Oh, there it is. I can see a little bit of my finger right there. There you go. But if I pull it back, I can't see it. But it, if it was a couple of eyes, could see everything that's going on in front of me and what I'm doing. And that's the watcher. The watcher is the part of you that's always watching, always observing, and will judge from time to time. That would then become the ego. So, what's right or wrong about this? I'm not here to judge that. I'm not here to tell you you should or shouldn't be watchful. Well, that's not true. I'm here to tell you that you can watch yourself and your ego going through whatever it goes through every day and say, I see what you're doing. And the ego is very compliant. It really wants to please. So as soon as you say, I see you, it stops. As soon as the ego stops, it's not going to go forward as long as it knows you're watching. Because some of the things the ego does, it knows it's going overboard. It's well beyond the boundaries of acceptability. It does it nonetheless. So when you say, wait a minute, it gets caught. Gets caught in the spotlight of observation. And as soon as that happens, it stops. And that's all you need to do to control the ego. You don't have to do anything like stop that ego. You don't need that. All you need to do is to say, oh, yeah, okay. And it stops. That's the idea. Just want to watch the ego. Become mindful of what the ego is up to. And it no longer can control your life. It no longer can control what goes on in your life. And then you take back the control of your life. You take back the unfolding of your life. Now, let me explain that because I just caught myself saying it. When I say you take back control, that would be the ego again. And I immediately changed it to you take back the unfolding of your life. And there's a distinction there that's important to be drawn. When you take back control, it would just be your ego in another form. That's not the idea. But when you take back the unfolding of your life, unfolding indicates an unfoldment and a release, a relaxation of control. And your life can then start to naturally unfold and demonstrate itself or present itself to the world. And so as you find what you love to do, what you find passion in, that would be the unfolding. So you're going along through life and all of a sudden you go, I never did that before, but that's great. I want to do that for a while more. I want to do that a lot now. And you start doing whatever it might be. You might be shearing sheep. You might be taking care of old people, elderly. You might be taking care of children and you might be painting. You might be doing photography. You might be flying. You might be doing anything you choose. And all of a sudden, bam, there it is. I have to do a lot more of that. You're passionate about it. That's how your life can unfold. In fact, many times you'll find that people have gotten themselves into particular places in their lives, particular careers by, quote, accident. Because they started playing the guitar and all of a sudden somebody said, I like the way you play. I like the way you sing. And now all of a sudden they're trying out for America's Got Talent or The Voice or something like this. And the next thing they know, they're a star. You never know unless you allow your life to unfold, not the way you've been told to do it, not the way you think you should do it, but the way that most generates passion within you. Then your life is unfolding in a positive way that allows life to take you in whatever direction it wants. I can tell you, I've been a lawyer for 40 years. I was a sculptor for 10 years before that. And in retrospect, I wish I had remained a sculptor. I didn't. I can't change that. So I'm not regretting it today. But I believe I know what my life might have been like had I remained a sculptor. I would have been more muscular, I can tell you. But I probably would have been more ill from all the dust I was sucking up and breathing in. And I might have been famous or I might have been a complete failure. There's no telling. But I went with my life the way I thought I was supposed to. And now I've gone with a new direction in my life. Talking on videos, being a minister, doing hypnosis and EFT, and helping others help themselves. And for me, this is now my passion. Even if I had been a sculptor for all those years, I may have still wound up doing this, which is now my passion. So your outer purpose in life can change dramatically over life as you allow things to unfold, as you allow your interests to take over your life. And then passion arises automatically, naturally. And again, life unfolds, as opposed to saying, you're going to be a dentist, you better study hard, you're going to be a doctor. How many people have done that? And then later on said, I just can't do this anymore. I know a few. Or a lawyer. I know many. Very unhappy in their profession. Although they were making tons of money, they got out. They just didn't want to do it because it wasn't what they wanted. And that's how you allow your life to unfold versus your ego to control. And this is true in almost every field of endeavor in life. Just become watchful, mindful of your ego, and it will quiet down. And then you have the ability to become more present, to become present completely. As you're present, you'll notice things start to shift and change in your life. The things that you've always been intrigued by but never really had the nerve or the courage to do suddenly become commonplace. You can do it. I can do this. Wham! Your life changes and a new direction is taken. Or even better than that, suddenly your ego can be quieted at any time you want it to be. And now you're present. As soon as you're present, everything changes too. And suddenly, when you're present, life opens up. That's what it's all about, life opening up to you, so that you can actually live the life you want. I'll be right back. Don't go away. Welcome back. So as you become present, you'll find that you allow yourself to relax more. You relax into the present moment, which is the only time life is real. I know this sounds like a whole other topic, but it's not. It's very related. You see, the only time that it's real is now. And let me relate that to what I told you earlier. When you think about everything I've been saying over the last 20 minutes or so, what are you doing? You hear what I said? When you think about it. It's not here now. It's how you remember it. Somebody else might remember it differently. So it, at best, is a memory, and usually a fairly flawed memory at that. What's going to happen next? Well, that's unknown. It hasn't happened yet. It's not real either. So the memory is not real, although memory is real. The memory of what just happened is not. It's a memory. It's no longer here. It's just a thought in our mind. What's about to happen is just a thought in our mind, expecting what I'm going to say next or what's going to happen next. So these things are not real. They're simply the workings of our mind. What is real is right now. This moment is real. You're sitting there, standing there, doing whatever you're doing, watching this, hearing it, even pondering it. I'm sitting here talking to you now. This is real. Now it's not here anymore. It's just a memory. Oh, this is real now. That's right. Now it's a memory. What am I going to say next? I don't know yet. It hasn't happened. It's not real yet. It's a plan. It's an anticipation. It's an expectation. It's not real. This, as I say it, is real. So the only time that's real is now. So here's how I relate that. As we become present, your real life begins to occur. At least you recognize your real life for a change. That's what's real. And suddenly, everything starts to apply as of now. Not the past, not the future. Just here now. What's going to happen next? I don't know. Well, what do you think? I'd have to go into the past and extrapolate and see what it's going to look like in the future. Still wouldn't be real. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And you start to relax into that. As you relax into it, your mind can relax because it realizes you've become present. Your ego mind can suddenly start to relax a little bit. It doesn't have to judge everything. It doesn't have to anticipate everything. It doesn't have to resent everything. It's just here along for the ride. And it'll take over when it's needed, or you'll call upon it. That's living in the present moment. Now, it's interesting. Things will happen in their own time once you relax and let things unfold. Flowers don't try hard or try harder to bloom at a particular time. Humans may force blooms, but flowers, they'll wait for the weather, right? They'll wait for the sun. They'll wait for the right time for them. Now, we know most flowers will bloom at certain times, but it's always a range of time when the circumstances are perfect. The flower will suddenly bloom. And that's true for you too. When you're living in the present moment, you'll find you can bloom. Your life will bloom at exactly the right time. Just the right time will happen for you. Not because you pressured it, you forced it. It will happen. That's the idea of presence. And that's the idea of putting the ego aside. Instead of making things happen, allow them to happen. When that happens, you're living in the present moment. Life evolves naturally, and you'll find a tremendous, tremendous difference in your life occurring. Everything will start to change, and you'll find you're much more at ease, much less stressed, and life will unfold naturally, not because you're forcing it. Big, big difference. So, and that's what living in the present moment is, and that's how we eclipse the ego. It's not to say we won't call upon it again. The next morning you've got to get up and put a shirt and tie on, or a dress on, or slacks, or something else, and your ego is going to be called upon. Your ego is going to be asked to make dinner, or to make a list for a grocery list, or make a list of things you have to do. All of those things are the ego in action. It's fine. Somebody's got to pay the bills. Leave it up to the ego. Leave it up to your thinking brain. That's the idea. But the rest of you can be present the rest of the time when you quiet the ego through mindfulness, just watching it. Okay, I'll be quiet now. It doesn't even have to say that much. It just goes, and it quiets down instantly. And that's the idea. Now, on this show, I've shown you different ways to become present, different things to say and do, but ultimately, it just comes down to a very simple thing. I'm watching. It's still. I can now be present. No thoughts. Silent. Still. Present. Life will unfold naturally into the next moment, because only each moment is real. And when you're present in that moment that's real, and you're not superimposing the requirements of the ego or the judgments of the ego, life becomes really, really light, almost floaty. That's the idea. You can actually float through life because life is meant to be lived in the present moment, not in the mind. And that's the way in which you can accomplish it. I'll be right back. Don't go away. So I hope this has been helpful to you in showing you how you can monitor or become mindful of the ego and turn that into living in the present moment naturally. And then seeing what evolves, what unfolds naturally. And that's the idea of coming back to the present moment naturally. So I want to let you know that here at the Center for Inner Healing, we hold a Wednesday night borrowing benefits group. Every Wednesday night, of course, and that's between 7 and 9 p.m. here at our center, which is located at 26 St. Paul's Place, and that's in Hempstead, New York, 11550. And the phone number here is 516-248-6600 if you want to contact us for directions or anything else. We also hold a Sunday night tapathon, and that's an evening program between 8 and 9 p.m. on Sunday evenings, where we do a call-in show. You can call in. We're all on the line together, and we do a lot of tapping using emotional freedom technique. And you're invited to both of these things every week. So if you want information or more information about any of those things, go to our website at centerforinnerhealing.com. Centerforinnerhealing.com. And you'll find our events page. And if you'd like to get on our newsletter list, just sign up for it there, and you'll get a free ebook on EFT into presence, which is an interesting book, I think you'll find. And we'll send you weekly newsletters and with some videos about what we do here, and some instructional videos, and lots of articles and quotes and all kinds of different things, and even my picks of the week of other videos that I just happen to like. So that's about it for tonight. We hope you've enjoyed yourself, and we'll see you next time as we, you and I, together, learn to live in the present moment. Have a wonderful day.